Hey, just a quick tutorial for you. So this part's real time. This part I wanted you to see that you start off with the hot air gun away from the PCB so that you can warm up the flux so that it'll kind of like stick to the board and stick to the solder. Because if you just started off and put the hot air gun right up against it, it would just blow away the flux and then it's gone and useless. So you can see here I warmed up the flux, and then when I actually bring the hot air gun in, it's actually melts the solder and it only takes like 5 seconds for it to actually come off. So that's kind of a good view right there of how to do it properly without applying too much heat to the board. And then this, you've already seen this, you already know what to do here. For wicking, flux, and heat, those are the two things you really need. And I like to use the chisel tip for the wicking because that applies, it has a really big surface area for the tip and it applies a lot of heat. So you just want to make sure to get the leg holes completely empty. Some people actually fill up the leg holes and then solder on the port that way, but I don't like to do that because I like to focus on the pins first. So it's really according to personal preference, whichever way you want to do it. All right, and here I'm just wicking away the traces. Make sure you don't tear any. Of course, you know that. Just be careful. Don't do things too much. Like you kind of want to just get these things done the first time through, and then not have to keep on redoing. Because the more heat you apply to it, the more chances that it's gonna get fucked up. All right, so right here, I tint the traces, and now I'm tinting the pins on the actual charge port. You don't have to do this, but I personally like to do it because it helps both sides to actually stick to each other instead of just one side sticking to the other. And right here, this is in real time again because it's important for you to see this part in real time, is I'm holding the gun away from it to get the flux warmed up. Like I said before, you want to heat the flux first, get it gooey, get it sticky, get it sticking to the solder and to the PCB, and then I will bring the hot air gun in to actually liquefy the solder. And you want to make sure that it's 100% liquefied before you bring the charge port in, because the longer the charge port is in the heat, obviously, the worse. So you just want to make sure that it's completely liquefied, and you bring in the charge port, get it in place, make sure it makes contact, and then get the heat off. And you want to make sure to apply the correct amount of pressure. You don't want to smash it against the board. You don't want it to be too loose. And you also got to get the right angle because you need both layers, both rows, to be soldered on properly. So you'll see here that I held it there for a long time because I wanted to make sure that the solder had solidified properly before letting go. And then here I'm just checking the traces. Always check the traces just to make sure everything had gone on properly. And you can actually see that I melted the plastic a little bit, so I held it in the heat just a little bit too much. And then always make sure to solder on the legs. And then when you solder on the legs, make sure you check the top side because the solder will go all the way through to the top side, and that's how you can tell that it's properly on there because it has happened to me where I did not properly anchor it in and it just snaps right off. All right, good luck with yours.